From holiday parties to the stresses of gift giving and everything in between, this season can take a toll on your overall health. Here to talk about holiday health and ways to help keep you healthy during this season is Dr. Matthew Tenenbaum with the Guelph Wellington Dufferin Public Health. Thank you for being here, Dr. Tenenbaum.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
First, I want to talk about safe food practices when hosting or attending holiday parties. Let's start with hosting. What can people do to keep their guests from getting sick?
Absolutely. So oftentimes when people gather during the holiday season, you're cooking, you're preparing things for your guests to eat, often large volumes of food. So it is extra important to make sure you're thinking about how to prepare that food safely to minimize the risk of one of your guests getting sick. Of course, as you are taking, raw foods like meats or things you might be preparing, it's important to prepare them separately from things that are ready to eat so that you don't cross-contaminate. As you're cooking those things, make sure that you're cooking them to the correct internal temperature based upon the kind of food it is, so that as you're serving it, you've made sure you're eliminating any harmful bacteria that could be inside it. And as well, after you're all done, it is a really important thing to make sure you're getting that leftover food back in the fridge. The longer it sits out, the higher risk if there is that bacteria that could be harmful will accumulate on the food. Sticking it in the fridge where it's kept at a safe temperature reduces that risk. It means you'll have safe leftovers down the road to eat later. So those are some basic things that would apply any time of year, but they're especially important as we gather in larger groups and potentially have more food available for people to eat.
Absolutely. And just to extend on that a little further, can you tell me how long leftovers should be consumed after a party is over?
So you want to make sure anything that's out that you prepared is back in the fridge within about 2 hours. The sooner the better, because again, the sooner you can get it down to a low temperature, the sooner you can halt or slow down the growth of bacteria. The longer it stays out, the more time bacteria has to grow. The range of temperatures between about 4 Celsius and 60 Celsius is what we call the danger zone. That's where bacteria grow most easily. If you can keep a food at a lower temperature than 4 degrees, i.e. in the fridge, it's going to stay safer for longer. So that's the key thing, within 2 hours if possible of when it's prepared.
Okay, and now, of course, it's not just food people need to be cautious about. It's also cold and flu season. With an increase in cases this time of year, what are some steps people can take to keep themselves from picking up any unwanted bugs?
Absolutely. So unfortunately, we are in the midst of a pretty significant flu wave in our community and across the province. That's circulating alongside viruses like COVID and RSV and others. We're very much in the time of year when these things are circulating and making people sick. So the first thing, of course, that's a general good precaution, whether you're gathering or not, is to make sure if you haven't already, you've gotten your flu vaccine, you've gotten your COVID vaccine. If you are 75 years of age or older, you can also get an RSV vaccine. Those are all free, publicly funded vaccines that you can get to reduce your risk of picking up those viruses to make yourself sick, or the risk of passing those viruses on to others. So those are all really key things. Of course, we know that people are becoming sick in our community, and of course, we worry a little bit about that as people are also getting together for the holiday season. So it is really important to think about how you're feeling before you get together for a gathering. If you have a fever or you have new symptoms like a cough or runny nose or sore throat that suggests you're feeling sick, you really ought to think about whether it's a good idea to get together with others, because of course, if you're sick and you're in a confined or crowded space with other people, there is a risk you can pass that on to guests, which is not anything that we want to see happening at this time of year, especially as we're seeing family and friends who may be more vulnerable, like older adults or young kids. So those are generally good tips. Of course, things that we can do all the time, like washing our hands, sneezing or coughing into our elbows or sleeves. Those are just general ways to reduce the risk of those things. But if people can get their vaccines, that's the single most important thing we can all do to reduce the risk individually and to our family and friends this holiday season.
Now, of course, lastly, it's not just our physical health that sometimes can take a toll. Our mental health, stress can be really prominent this time of year for many of different reasons. Do you have any general tips for viewers on how to manage their mental health through this season?
I'm really glad you brought that up. I think often there's an idea we have that this time of year is really happy, and of course for many people it is a happy time of year. But for a large share of our community, it's also a challenging and stressful time of year. We see higher rates of things like depression. We see higher, people reporting feeling isolated this time of year. This time of year can be a really challenging time for people who are feeling unwell, who are having difficulty making ends meet economically, people who have limited social contacts can feel quite isolated. And so all of those things can make this time of year really challenging for some people. Layer on top of that, of course, the fact that we have shorter days and colder weather, and it's easy to understand how people might be feeling down or blue this time of year. The most important thing, of course, for each of us is to just stay in touch with how we're feeling, recognize that how we're feeling is okay, recognize that there's importance this time of year in doing things that are meaningful and important to us. If you're the kind of person that isn't, a huge fan of big gatherings, make sure you take some time for yourself to rest and recharge. It is also important to check in on those around you, family, friends, neighbors. Recognize that, again, people are sometimes facing challenges we may not see, and that feeling of connection to each other is a really important thing that we can maintain and bolster. So checking in with people around us is something that each of us can do to protect their well-being and our connection to them. Finally, for people who are feeling really, really challenged and unwell, it's important to recognize there are supports out there. Things like Here 24/7 at 1-844-437-3247. There are lines like that you can contact if you need more urgent help. And it's important to recognize that it's okay to reach out for help. It is a challenging time of year. There's nothing wrong with accessing the supports that we all have, because at some point or another, each of us will need these kinds of supports. So please reach out if that's what you need this time of year.
Okay, very good indeed. Thank you, Dr. Tannenbaum. And of course, I hope you have a wonderful holiday. Thank you.
Thank you. You as well.